Chosen one. Isn't it wild how people expected you to sink, yet you came out walking like royalty through the mess they thought would break you? They threw shade, lies, and chaos your way, hoping the dirt would stain you, but instead you turned it into a runway. The same ones who whispered behind your back are now whispering in shock, asking, how did they survive that and still shine like this? Let me tell you, it wasn't luck, it was divine strategy. Chosen ones, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about something powerful, something that sets you apart from the crowd, your ability to navigate the mess, the drama, and the filth of life with an unshakable grace. You know, that situation everyone thought would break you, that job that was full of toxic people, that family drama that felt like a never-ending soap opera. Everyone was watching, waiting to see you crumble, but instead you walked through it like a boss. There was a young chosen one. She had this dream of starting her own business. She poured her heart and soul into it, but it seemed like every time she took one step forward, she was pushed 10 steps back. Her so-called friends were gossiping about her, her family was doubting her, and even her bank account was giving her the side eye. It was a filthy situation, a pit of negativity and discouragement. She could have thrown in the towel, she could have gotten on social media and vented, or she could have even retaliated against those who were against her. But she didn't. Instead, she chose a different path. She held her head high, kept her focus on her vision, and prayed. She didn't get dragged into the drama. She didn't stoop to their level. She just kept walking one step at a time with grace and dignity. And you know what happened? People were so impressed. They couldn't understand how she could remain so calm, so poised, so unbothered. They saw her walking through a storm, yet she wasn't getting wet. They saw her in a fire, yet she wasn't getting burned. This, my friends, is the power of a chosen one. You are not meant to fight fire with fire. You are meant to walk through the fire and emerge purified. You are not meant to get dirty in the filth. You are meant to walk on it and remain spotless. This isn't about being passive. It's about being powerful. It's about knowing your worth, knowing your calling, and knowing that you are divinely protected. Someone once said, the greater your storm, the brighter your rainbow. But I want to add to that, the greater the filth you walk through, the more impressive your grace becomes. Today, we're going to dive deep into 7 ways you, as a chosen one, can continue to walk through any filthy situation like a boss. So grab your spiritual toolkit and let's get into it. Don't you dare click away, because what you're about to hear will not only change your perspective, but will also help you stay awake and aligned with your spiritual journey. Point 1, you mastered the art of being unbothered. Let's be real, in this era of constant drama and endless clapbacks, being unbothered is a superpower, one that few truly master. But here's the thing, being unbothered isn't about being cold, heartless, or detached from reality. It's about operating with emotional intelligence at a level that most people can't even wrap their heads around. Think of it like this. When someone throws shade your way, most people's instinct is to throw it right back, to match energy with energy. But you just stand there, let that shade slide right past you, and then you casually step over it like it's a puddle on the sidewalk. No reaction, no wasted effort, just a calm, deliberate choice to keep moving forward. And that right there confuses people. They can't figure you out. They're running mental gymnastics, trying to decode your silence, trying to uncover your angle. But the truth is beautifully simple. You have no angle. You're not playing the game because the game isn't even worth your time. This ability to stay unbothered is one of the clearest signs of spiritual maturity. It shows you've understood a powerful truth. Not every battle is meant to be fought. And not every insult deserves an answer. History has proven this again and again. Take Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king of Rome. He dealt with betrayal, gossip, and political enemies constantly. Yet in his meditations, he reminded himself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. He knew what modern psychology now proves. When you refuse to let external negativity hijack your peace, you gain control over your reality. Studies in emotional regulation even back this up. People who master the art of pausing before reacting show higher resilience, lower stress levels, and healthier relationships. And let's be honest, it's entertaining to watch how people crumble when their attempts to provoke you fall flat. It's almost comical. They expect an argument, a comeback, some fireworks, but instead they're met with silence, a calm nod, or even worse for them, a smile. That smile is lethal, because it tells them their negativity has no power here. It's like trying to start a fire with wet matches. Nothing catches. You've outgrown their sandbox drama because you're too busy building your kingdom. And that kingdom is no metaphorical illusion. It's your career, your vision, your spiritual growth, and your personal empire. While they're busy gossiping, subtweeting, or plotting, you're putting bricks on your legacy. There's also something magnetic about this energy. People don't always admit it, but deep down they admire those who are unshakable. It's why leaders, visionaries, and true chosen ones often carry that calm, grounded aura. Think of Nelson Mandela, who spent 27 years in prison and came out not bitter, not vengeful, but composed, dignified, and focused on unity. That's not weakness. That's strength most people can't fathom. Being unbothered doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you've disciplined your feelings so they no longer control you. Here's the twist, though. Being unbothered doesn't just protect you, it also disarms your opposition. Conflict thrives on reaction. Drama feeds on attention. The moment you stop supplying those things, the fire dies out on its own. This is why chosen ones often look like they're winning in silence. It's not that problems don't exist, it's that they've learned the secret art of choosing which battles are worthy of their energy. And spoiler alert, most aren't. So the next time someone throws shade, pause and remember, it's not a reflection of your worth, it's a reflection of their wound. They're reaching for you because you've built something they can't touch. They're loud because your silence intimidates them. They're messy because your discipline exposes them. Let them wonder, let them talk, let them spin in circles trying to figure you out. You don't need to clear your name or defend your character. Your consistency, your results, and your peace of mind do that for you. In the end, being unbothered is more than just an attitude. It's a spiritual strategy. It's the quiet confidence that says, I know who I am, I know where I'm going, and I refuse to let temporary storms distract me from my eternal purpose. And that, chosen one, is how you turn shade into sunlight, drama into dust, and chaos into clarity. Because while they're busy reacting, you're busy rising. Point 2, your silence became your loudest statement. Chosen one. We live in an age where the loudest voice often gets the most attention. Society tells you that if you don't shout, you won't be heard. If you don't defend yourself, you'll be crushed. But you, set apart, refined, and deeply rooted, know something most people don't. Silence can be more powerful than any argument. When others flung insults, you didn't scramble to clap back, you prayed. When they pushed every button trying to provoke you, you didn't explode, you meditated on truth. That quiet choice wasn't weakness, it was divine strength cloaked in stillness. You didn't need to prove who you are. You allowed your life, your blessings, and your resilience to do the speaking. That's a rare and radical kind of confidence, and it unsettles people who thrive on chaos. Psychologists have studied this phenomenon, and they've found that silence in conflict often shifts the balance of power. The one who refuses to engage emotionally signals control, not submission. Think about it. The loudest in the room may grab attention, but the calm one commands respect. History proves this too. Mahatma Gandhi resisted an empire without raising his voice in violence. His silence and non-resistance were louder than any war cry. Likewise, the chosen know that silence, when anchored in truth, carries a kind of authority that noise can never replicate. What most people miss is that silence is not emptiness. It's not a void, it's a loaded space. In those quiet moments, you were not passive, you were spiritually active. While they were ranting, you were strategizing. While they were gossiping, you were healing. While they were plotting, you were aligning with a higher plan. Silence for the chosen one is not retreat. It's preparation. Just as seeds sprout in the hidden soil long before they break the surface, your victories were germinating in the unseen, while your enemies mistook your stillness for defeat. And let's be honest, your silence exposed them. Think back to those moments when they wanted a reaction from you. They craved your energy, your fire, your breakdown. But instead you gave them nothing. Do you know how frustrating that is to someone who feeds on conflict? It's like trying to fight smoke. The more they swing, the more foolish they look. By not defending yourself, you forced their actions into the light. Their words rang hollow because you didn't validate them with a response. It's like what Proverbs 17:28 says, even a fool is considered wise when he keeps silent. By holding your tongue, you revealed their folly without lifting a finger. Silence is also deeply healing for you. Science backs this up. Studies show that intentional silence reduces stress, regenerates brain cells, and improves focus. In fact, just 2 minutes of silence is more restorative for your brain than listening to music. That means every time you chose stillness over drama, you weren't just ignoring negativity. You were repairing yourself, recharging, and coming back stronger. You were literally building the mental clarity and spiritual strength that made your next move undeniable. That's why when your blessings started showing up, it looked like you came out of nowhere. In reality, you were silently preparing all along. And let's not forget the poetic beauty of it all. Silence has always been a weapon of the wise. Ancient samurai trained in the art of composure, knowing that the calm warrior sees more than the restless one. Monks sit in silence, not because they have nothing to say, but because they have tapped into something too profound for words. Likewise, chosen one, your quiet stance wasn't just self-control, it was testimony. You were showing that you live by a higher order, one that doesn't bow to human chaos. So the next time they wonder why you didn't defend yourself, why you didn't scream, why you didn't retaliate, smile. Because you know something they don't. Silence is not the absence of power. It is the presence of discipline, alignment, and faith. You didn't just stay quiet, you let the universe, the Most High and time itself answer for you. And when that answer came, it was louder than any insult ever thrown your way. Point 3, you chose grace over gossip. Oh, the temptation is always there, chosen one. The pull to pick up the phone and spill every detail about how outrageous that person acted, how unfair the situation was, or how unbelievable their behavior seemed. It's almost magnetic, but you didn't. You resisted. That moment right there is where your power revealed itself, not in how loudly you could speak, not in how passionately you could argue your case, but in your ability to remain silent when silence was strength. You didn't bite the bait, and that's what set you apart. See, forgiveness is not about pretending nothing happened. It's not about weakness or forgetting. It's about freedom. You recognize that holding on to bitterness is like setting yourself on fire, hoping someone else feels the heat. Science even backs this up. Studies from Stanford University and the Mayo Clinic show that forgiveness can lower stress, improve heart health, reduce anxiety, and even lengthen your lifespan. Think about that for a second. Letting go of what hurt you could literally save your life. That's how powerful forgiveness really is. And here's the twist that most people miss. Forgiveness isn't really about the other person at all, it's about you. When you refused to marinate in resentment, you weren't excusing their actions, you were refusing to let their actions rent space in your spirit. You were saying, I value my peace more than I value my pain. And that's revolutionary. That's what separates the chosen from the crowd. The world teaches people to clap back, to expose, to prove a point. Social media thrives on drama because conflict is entertaining, but you didn't perform for the crowd, you didn't feed the fire, you walked away and, in doing so, showed the kind of maturity that cannot be faked. The ancient Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once said, the best revenge is not to be like your enemy, and that's exactly what you embodied. Instead of becoming what hurt you, you chose to rise above it. Let's be honest, forgiveness is hard, it's messy, it feels unfair because our human nature screams for justice. But deep down you knew the truth. Holding on to grudges chains you to the past, while forgiveness unshackles you for the future. In spiritual terms, you chose elevation over stagnation, you chose transformation over repetition, and that's why forgiveness is never just about peace, it's about growth. Imagine it this way, every grudge is like a backpack full of rocks. You can carry it for miles, sure, but it slows you down, breaks your back, and leaves you exhausted. But the moment you decide to set it down, suddenly you're lighter, freer, able to run toward your destiny. That's what you did. You put down the heavy load that was never meant for you to carry, and because of that, your energy is no longer wasted on bitterness. It's invested in building, creating, and thriving. The irony is, people may never understand the strength it takes to forgive. To them, it looks like weakness. But to those who see with spiritual eyes, it is the highest form of strength. Nelson Mandela, after spending 27 years in prison, said, "As I walked out the door toward my freedom, I knew that if I didn't leave my bitterness and hatred behind, I'd still be in prison. That's the kind of wisdom you tapped into. You refused to stay locked in a cell built by someone else's actions. Chosen one, this is what makes you different. You know that peace is more precious than pride. You know that silence can speak louder than arguments. And you know that your destiny is too important to waste on battles that don't build you. You're not here to prove yourself to people. You're here to fulfill a calling. That's why you forgave. Not because they were right. Not because they apologized. But because your purpose requires a heart that is light enough to keep moving. And so when you chose grace instead of gossip, forgiveness instead of fury, and peace instead of pettiness, you weren't just protecting your sanity. You were stepping into your higher self. You were proving that transformation is not shown in words, but in restraint. You became living proof that true strength isn't about winning arguments, it's about mastering yourself. And that, chosen one, is the kind of power that shakes the world. Point 4, you kept your eyes on the prize. While everyone else was locked into the endless cycle of drama, negativity, and mudslinging, you were tuned into something far greater, a frequency that most people couldn't even hear. It wasn't that you didn't notice the chaos around you, you simply recognized it for what it was, a temporary storm, a distraction designed to pull you off your path. You understood, perhaps better than anyone else, that life is full of weeds, but if you spend your whole journey obsessing over the thorns, you'll never make it to the harvest. This wasn't ignorance, it was wisdom. You knew the mud was never meant to define you, it was meant to refine you. And that clarity of vision is exactly why you stood unshaken when others stumbled. Think about it this way. When a marathon runner has trained for months, conditioned their body, and fixed their eyes on the finish line, the last thing that can stop them is a squirrel darting across the road. That's what your journey looked like. The world tried to throw distractions, temptations, and meaningless conflicts into your lane, but you had cultivated something that couldn't be broken: focus. And not just any focus, but a spiritual vision sharper than any earthly noise. Where others saw only what was in front of them, you were tuned into what was above them. That higher perspective gave you an advantage that few ever achieve. History itself proves that the ones who change the world are never the ones caught up in petty squabbles. Think of visionaries like Martin Luther King Jr., who, even when surrounded by hatred and opposition, kept his eyes on the dream of justice. Or like Nelson Mandela, who endured decades in prison without letting bitterness consume him because his sight was locked on freedom for his people. These were chosen ones in their own right, not because life gave them ease, but because they refused to be defined by the mud thrown at them. Their secret was the same as yours. They understood that the chaos was only temporary, but the harvest was eternal. And let's be real, it takes strength to rise above. Negativity is seductive. Drama can be addictive. The human brain is wired to notice threats and conflicts because, from a survival perspective, it used to keep us alive. That's why gossip spreads faster than truth and fear headlines get more clicks than hope. But you broke free of that programming. You trained your spirit to filter out the noise, to stay centered when everyone else was spinning. You learned the art of keeping your peace sacred. It's not that the chaos wasn't loud, it's that your faith was louder. This is where the power of spiritual discipline comes in. Every prayer you whispered when no one was listening, every moment you chose patience instead of anger, every time you walked away instead of retaliating, those were the quiet decisions that forged your strength. Like steel shaped in fire, your spirit was tempered in those moments. And while others drowned in the shallow waters of conflict, you learned to swim in the deep oceans of purpose. It's also why people often misread you. Some thought you were cold, detached, and maybe even arrogant. But the truth was simpler. You weren't available for the circus. You were already invested in something greater. The chosen ones always confuse the crowd because they don't move to the rhythm of the world. They march to the pulse of destiny. Your silence in the face of insults wasn't weakness, it was mastery. Your refusal to engage in pointless battles wasn't avoidance, it was strategy. Like a chess player thinking 10 moves ahead, you knew what was worth your energy and what wasn't. And here's the beauty. Every distraction you ignored and every battle you didn't fight allowed you to conserve energy for the war that actually mattered. You didn't waste your spirit on weeds, you reserved it for the harvest, and that's why, while others are exhausted from chasing every shadow, you're still standing strong, stepping into the light of your calling. So the next time life tries to throw mud at you, remember this. The mud is temporary, but the vision is eternal. The weeds may grow, but the harvest is guaranteed. You are unstoppable, not because the world made it easy, but because you learned the sacred art of focus. And in a world where everyone else is distracted by squirrels, you're the marathon runner who never loses sight of the finish line. That is the mark of the chosen. Point 5. You were covered by a divine shield. Chosen one, let's take a moment to really break this down. What you've been through in life hasn't been some random sequence of unfortunate events. It wasn't just you enduring betrayal, rejection, gossip, and hardship by sheer toughness. It was spiritual warfare unfolding in plain sight. To outsiders, it looked like you were walking barefoot across broken glass, bleeding but still moving forward. People whispered among themselves, baffled, how are they still standing? How have they not fallen apart? What they didn't see, what they couldn't see, is that your strength wasn't rooted in your human willpower alone. It wasn't just grit or stubbornness. Instead, there was a divine current flowing through you, an invisible strength that upheld you when your own energy was spent. As the Apostle Paul wrote in 2 Corinthians 12:9, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." This means that the very moments you felt weakest were the exact times when God's power was shining the brightest through you. You weren't surviving on your own. You were a vessel carrying the strength of the one who chose you. And here lies the mystery that confuses so many people. They saw venom hurled at you, but they didn't see how heaven turned that poison into medicine for your growth. They heard gossip designed to bury your name, but what they didn't hear were the prayers being lifted up on your behalf, prayers that carried more weight in the spirit than any lie spoken against you. They watched attacks being orchestrated against your life, yet they had no idea about the divine interference happening in the background. Doors slammed shut before traps could catch you, storms rerouted before they reached you, and invisible hands lifting you up when the weight should have crushed you. What you endured wasn't just survival, it was transformation. The very battles designed to break you became the soil in which your resilience, wisdom, and clarity were rooted. That's why some people are baffled today. They fully expected you to crumble, but here you are, standing stronger, wiser, and radiating a light they can't quite explain. This resilience isn't luck, chosen one. It's lineage. It's not coincidence, it's covenant. Being marked by God means you walk under an eternal covering, a spiritual insurance that cannot be revoked or cancelled. The Bible makes this clear in Psalm 91. He will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. That's not just poetic language. It's a binding truth in the unseen realm. It declares that no matter how fierce the attacks are, the final outcome is already secured. Victory belongs to you. The lies may spread, the betrayal may hurt, and the weapons may be formed, but they will not prosper. You are sealed, and that seal makes you untouchable in ways the human eye can't comprehend. Think about it. Your journey was never designed to showcase your personal strength, but to reveal the unstoppable power of God flowing through you. That's why people remain puzzled. They saw the battles you went through, but they missed the covering that surrounded you. They saw the fire, but they didn't recognize that you were walking with the same presence that kept Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego untouched in Nebuchadnezzar's furnace. Scripture tells us that when those three men were thrown into the flames, the king looked and saw a fourth figure walking with them, someone who looked like a son of the gods. Daniel 3:25. In the same way, you've been through fires that should have consumed you, but you were never alone in them. That divine presence carried you, shielded you, and ensured that not even the smell of smoke would linger on you when you came out. And here's what makes this so powerful. Your story is not just survival, it's testimony. Every scar you carry is evidence of divine preservation. Every obstacle you overcame is proof of heavenly backing. You are living proof that when God marks someone as chosen, no scheme, no storm, no slander, and no betrayal can erase that divine seal. You've been carried, you've been protected, and you've been guided every single step of the way. And the same God who sustained you through betrayal will sustain you in future battles. That's why the world is left speechless. They can't explain why you're still here, but you can. You are here because you were never walking alone. You were chosen, and chosen ones are not just survivors. They are conquerors, testaments of God's unshakable strength shining through human weakness. And that chosen one will always set you apart. Point 6. You radiated light in the darkness. In the filth of life's darkest moments, you didn't allow yourself to blend into the shadows. You chose to glow. That decision alone separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. A chosen one doesn't simply endure, they transform. Think about it. Throughout history, the people who left the deepest marks on humanity weren't those who had perfect circumstances, but those who found light in the middle of despair. Nelson Mandela, stripped of freedom for 27 years, emerged not with hatred, but with a vision of reconciliation that reshaped an entire nation. Viktor Frankl, surrounded by death and horror in Auschwitz, discovered that meaning, not circumstance, determines survival, a truth he later shared in his groundbreaking book. These aren't just stories, they're powerful reminders that human beings, when aligned with a higher purpose, can redefine what it means to endure. And that's exactly what you've done, whether the world acknowledges it yet or not. What startled people wasn't just that you survived situations designed to break you. It was the way you survived. You didn't carry rage as your shield or bitterness as your sword. Instead, you carried gratitude, dignity, and an unshakable calm. While others shouted at the storm, you became the stillness within it. Modern psychology now confirms what ancient wisdom always taught. Gratitude doesn't just shift your attitude, it rewires the brain itself. Neuroscientists have found that consistent gratitude practice lowers cortisol levels, the stress hormone, while boosting dopamine and serotonin, the brain's natural feel-good chemicals. This doesn't just change how you feel, it strengthens emotional resilience and trains the mind to see opportunities where others only see obstacles. Spiritually, the same truth has been echoed for centuries. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. John 1:5. By embodying this principle, you confused your enemies, humbled your doubters, and inspired silent respect, even from those unwilling to admit it. Because here's the hidden truth few will ever say out loud. Anyone can scream at the darkness, but very few can quietly illuminate it. That's why you stand out. Your light wasn't loud, but it was undeniable. It revealed strength where none was expected, exposed weakness in those who underestimated you, and displayed the rare beauty of a soul that refuses to break. Chosen one, you didn't just survive the mud, you bloomed in it, proving that growth doesn't require perfect soil, only unshakable roots, and that's what makes your story unforgettable. Point 7. You walked away with a story and a crown. You didn't just survive that situation, you conquered it. And that distinction matters more than you may realize. Survival is about holding on, but conquest is about transformation. Think about it. How many people stumble through the fire of life only to come out scarred, bitter, or carrying the residue of what tried to destroy them? Yet here you are, not smelling like smoke, but radiating resilience. In fact, research in neuroscience backs this up. Studies show that people who face and overcome adversity often develop what's known as post-traumatic growth. Instead of shrinking, their brains adapt, wiring them for sharper problem-solving, greater empathy, and a stronger sense of purpose. What you thought was meant to end you was actually rewiring you, turning your wounds into wisdom and your scars into strength. Spiritually, this is what's called authority. Anyone can recite faith, but only those who have been through the trenches can embody it. Every storm that tried to sink you taught you how to stand taller. Every betrayal sharpened your discernment. Every loss became a divine exchange, clearing out what was temporary so God could fill you with what was eternal. And here's the twist. Your story isn't just about you, it's evidence, living, breathing evidence that God still specializes in resurrection moments where graves become gardens and ashes are transformed into beauty. You've become a walking testimony, a sermon in motion, proof that divine power shows up in human weakness. What once seemed like your downfall is now your platform. And testimonies aren't just personal, they're contagious. They ripple outward, healing, inspiring, and igniting faith in others who are still trapped in their midnight hour. Chosen ones like you don't just crawl out of the pit, they redefine what victory looks like. When you walk through fire and emerge untouched, it's not just poetic, it's symbolic of God's covering. When you wade through deep waters without sinking, it reflects the unshakable truth that his hand holds you above the waves. And when you pass through the filth of betrayal, lies, or trials without being tainted, it marks you as someone set apart, anointed, untouchable by what tried to contaminate your spirit. Your survival was never meant to be silent. It's living proof that with God, defeat is only an illusion and victory is inevitable. So the next time you reflect on what you endured, don't just see yourself as someone who made it out. See yourself as someone who was transformed, fortified, and appointed to shine as a beacon of hope for others still finding their way through the storm. So, chosen ones, the next time you find yourself in a messy situation, remember who you are. Remember that you are divinely equipped to handle it. Don't get tangled in the drama, don't get dirty in the filth, and don't let anyone steal your peace. Walk through it like the boss you are, with your head held high, your faith strong, and your heart filled with grace. People are watching and they are so impressed by your walk. Now go out there and continue to live as the powerful, resilient, and unshakable chosen one you are destined to be. Until next time, stay blessed and stay awake.